Look, will you be absolutely genuine with me? No deception, please. I want you to do something that expresses you without the slightest deception.
So it's been a while, about 2 months, roughly, since the last episode. A lot has definitely happened and transpired, I think, in all three of our lives, from what we've engaged in and maybe some new paths that we've taken. I think this episode is just kind of going to be like a little bit of a bro episode where we just talk, catch up, and see where it goes, you know? So I kind of want to, with you, you know, how was, you did the marathon, you just got home from Florida. You were down in Florida with Mike for a little bit, so I guess you two can kind of branch off one another. How was your marathon? How was that? What was it like?
New York City Marathon was it was fucking sick, honestly. It was, if anyone can ever get into it, then I would do it. Otherwise, I think running a marathon, I don't really like I'm not like, you need to run a marathon. A marathon is such a great feat. I think it was actually, for me, it was a little too much. Okay. Too much time investment, too much it took me away from too many other things that I enjoy doing just from the time. But New York City is like, it's got to, I've never ran any other marathons. It's got to be the best marathon in the world. If you just take like the energy of New York City and compress it into like a Super Bowl type event, basically. And
did you develop a new appreciation for the city, and did you kind of get to travel through different routes and areas that you've never been?
Yeah, well, you go through all the boroughs.
Where do you start?
From Staten Island.
You start in Staten Island.
Start in the tip of Staten Island. Immediately you cross over the bridge, which is
so Brooklyn, I guess.
Yeah, so you cross right into Brooklyn.
Okay,
and then you pretty much run the next like 8, 9, 10 miles just on one block in Brooklyn, just headed up north.
Like the BQE, basically.
Yeah, so whatever avenue it is, you just head straight up for like 10 miles. And then you cross a little bridge, I think, again into Queens. You run like a quick little 5K in Queens. And then you cross another bridge over to Manhattan. And then from Manhattan, you head north again up till, I guess, whatever it is up there, Bronx or Harlem or whatever. And you loop back around, you finish in Central Park.
What was your favorite part? Where you ran, what was your favorite kind of route that you got to?
So the whole thing is, it's fucking sick. It's like, obviously there's like 55,000 people that ran the marathon. So it's just a ton of people. Like they do waves every, I don't know if there was maybe 5 or 6 of them. And then every like, 15 30 minutes, something like that, you get a new wave that goes out.
All from the same starting spot.
All from, I think it's a Verrazano. I forget what bridge that is that connects. Mm-hmm. So there's like 2 levels to the Verrazano. So some people take the higher route and some people take kind of like the lower route.
Okay.
And then when you finish crossing over, you pretty much stay divided on that street in Brooklyn until like maybe like the 5 or the 8 mile mark or something like that. You're still like on different sides of the road. So there's like 2 groups running the same race, but then every 30 minutes a new group will kind of get let out, and it's a big group of people. That
I was going to ask, like, how many people are all the different time slots there collectively at once? Or?
Yeah, so it's like by starting time, and then it's by color, and then it's by letter as well. So I was like wave 3 orange D or something like that. So it's like A, B, C, D, E, F, G, whatever.
Just for that color.
Different colors, and then everyone's kind of going out in big group starts like that. So you have obviously an insane amount of people, especially in the beginning. You're like running on the bridge with, like, it's absolutely full of people.
I saw the pictures. It looks
you
sick.
see the pictures are insane. Like they're like helicopters, flying around that are shooting pictures. So first, right away, you run over the bridge. It's insane. You're on a closed-off bridge that you would never run,
one of the most famous
with like a million fucking people around you on it. And it's a beautiful day. It was like a 50-degree day.
I saw, perfect
no
day
clouds
for it.
in the sky. And then the whole rest of the race is sick because it's literally a street width, and then you have
millions of people
lining the streets on every street. And at some point, the streets get even more narrow, so it's like a residential street around here. Like that's how wide it would be, or even more narrow at some spots. Like it'd be like half of a residential street where you're crossing through like what feels like a tunnel, because the people on the sides are like stacked, and they're so loud that you feel like you're running through like an entrance tunnel to a football game or something like that.
The whole time.
Yeah.
The whole time. Were there people while you're running on streets like that? Are people hustling to get kind of to the front, or is everyone kind of respectful where they see where they're at and they just kind of go in their flow? Or
The runners, you're saying?
Yeah, runners trying to like move in between everybody. And
Yeah,
push
for sure.
Yeah, okay.
It's pretty crowded out there. Like
sure.
it's pretty crowded, and I actually started in a later wave from what my time would have been. So more or less, I started with people that are estimated to run in like 4 hours, and I did it in 3.5. So for most of the time, I was that kind of person that was like trying to weave, and because it's a long race. People are dropping like flies.
I'm
They're
sure.
like,
What'd you average? Like 7.5 minute
like
mile?
750-ish.
For 26 miles.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
If you were blind, what was your like? And you were just going off energy and sound and aura. Like, what is there one section or bridge or anything that you remember specifically, or is it really just that?
I kind of blacked out a little bit as far as like understanding where I was within the race. So at mile 16 is when you've already ran through Queens, and then you cross over a bridge to get into Manhattan, and that's where a lot of people will go to link up and watch, because it's just you're a little past halfway.
City, yeah.
It's in Manhattan, it's just easily kind of like accessible, I guess, from the public transit. And then from there, the runners go north, but you can just go a little west to Central Park. So it's like you can get two good viewings, one at mile 16 when you're just a little past halfway, and then one close to the finish line. So that's just a popular spot. You know, people go to Brooklyn and stuff like that beforehand as well, but then you're kind of playing catch up to try to catch them on the other side. So I knew in my head everyone was going to be, or I would see a lot of familiar faces at 16. So in my head, I was just trying to get to there, and then I'm like doing the math, like, all right, there's only 10 more left from there, and 10 doesn't sound that bad. If I already got to 16, like, what's another 10? So when you go up Brooklyn, you get over into Queens, and then you cross over from Queens to get into Manhattan, and you're running up like a big bridge at that point. It's got to be like a mile long, where you're just on like this steady incline. And it's the first point in the race where there's not really any other spectators, because it's this closed off bridge that you wouldn't be able to get to. So that's like the first point where you really start seeing a lot of people start to drop off, walk, stand off to the side, and everyone's like trying to stretch out cramps and things like that. Yeah. So I'm still trekking along, and then you finally get like up, and you start going down on this bridge. And the way it works is pretty much down, and then when you get to the bridge, you do like actually a full turnaround to get out of it. So you just loop fully around backwards, like out to the left. As you're going down this bridge, you start hearing like far off rumbling from the outside. You're just hearing like, and it's getting like louder and louder and louder, and it's quiet on the bridge because it's just footsteps really. And it's even like I think it was maybe even like wood like planks and shit like that. So you're just hearing like everyone's foot stamping and breathing. It's quiet, and you're getting down this bridge, and you start to hear like rumbling. It's getting louder and louder and louder and louder and louder. You get to the bottom of the bridge, and you go to like loop out, and then it's like you get to this end of this dark tunnel. Basically, it's just light, and you loop around, and everybody is like lined in the sides of the road.
I can imagine
like,
that's
cheering so hard, and you're so amped to like see people again, and then you're on another like really straight road for a long time. So at any time you could be in the middle, or you could veer off to the outer lanes where you could go like, I was like giving high fives like the whole race almost. You're just off to the side, and everyone's got signs like tap this sign for power, or like there's kids giving high fives. Everyone's giving you snacks and shit like that. So I was running, I had one ear pod in my right ear, and I'm running the left lane like basically the entire race, just like giving high fives the entire race. People would look right in my eyes and be like, "You're fucking doing so well, man. You got this." Like every time I needed like a little bit of up, I would get somebody that would like be chosen for me. Like they'd be like, "Listen, dude, you're gonna fucking do this. You got this. You look so good." And it would give you that burst of life where you just kind of keep going. And then the last 10 were actually really brutal for me. So I guess mentally I just was like, all right, 16. Got to 16, and then even 17 and 18 I was still flying. And then you go up one more bridge, I guess, to get over into Harlem or the Bronx or whatever it is up there. I remember going up and being like, all right, I'm starting to get like, everything's starting to get heavy. My forearm was starting to cramp a lot, which I'm like, this isn't really good. And my forearm's cramping. Like my legs were starting to cramp too, but I was actually cramping in my forearm. Like it was getting knotted up and tight. So I keep shaking it out and shit. But my legs are starting to really cramp up.
Is that from you kind of keeping your arms
just
like
from
this?
holding. Yeah. Even my pec eventually started cramping up just from like holding my arm close to my body for so long, just holding it there. So it got pretty rough the last like 10 miles, which is basically like over like an hour's worth, you know. It was basically from 18 to 26, I would say. And then I was just kind of gritting my teeth to get through it. Like it was
At any point did you
painful.
question why the hell am I doing this?
Not really.
Okay.
I knew that I wanted to do it when I signed up for it. I knew that the experience was like something that I wouldn't maybe do again, but it was in the right time of my life where I was fit enough that I wouldn't have to kill myself to get through it, and I could probably even do like I could challenge myself with it instead of just being like, I just want to finish. You know, I wanted to try to challenge myself with the time a little bit. But no, I never was like, why would I do this or some shit. Honestly, the only thing I thought about was like, I hope my body doesn't give up on me. Almost like every couple steps, my hamstring would get tight, my calf would get tight, almost like you're about to cramp up, but I would just try to relax through it and just kind of keep running. But it was like very persistent by 18 and 19 and 20. And so I just kept saying to myself, like, all right, fingers crossed, like get through another little bit, keep relaxing, keep kind of just trying to stay not freaking out or tensing or questioning why I'm doing this or anything like that. Like I know as long as my body doesn't give up on me, I'll keep trying to push through this. And
what'd you learn about yourself after the race? What was the realization that you came to internally about maybe what you're capable of? Or I'm sure it was a gratifying experience, but what about yourself was kind of a new level of development that you were able to take away from it?
I would say that I don't love running as much as I
as you thought
I did or thought that I might, you know, and I feel like you got to give things a really solid try before you can evaluate if you enjoy said thing or not. And I think a lot of people do that before they've tried the thing or they've done such a small dose of something where it's like, nah, I don't really like boxing. And you're like, dude, we hit mitts like 2 times, you know, wait until we spar, wait until we like really, you know, until you really start getting comfortable with it. And and they're like, nah, I didn't really like it. But it'd be like someone going and like doing a year fight camp, taking a fight. And then they're like, yeah, you know, they won and they did great.
I've had people
and you're like,
that, dude.
So again, you're like, nah,
I've had people
wasn't
like
really
that.
my thing, man. So I definitely realized that running in that capacity isn't really my thing.
More short bursts.
I like feeling fast. I like feeling fit because actually now it's been a couple weeks since I've ran and I don't really like the feeling of not
running,
being in
the short
cardio shape. You know. But otherwise, when I signed up for the marathon, I told the coach I was working with, like, hey, I just want to do it. I know it's going to be a fun marathon. I just want to like get through it, enjoy it. I was going to do the Philadelphia half marathon, which was this weekend actually, before I got into the New York City marathon. And that was a race that I was going to race. I was going to run it hard. I wanted to try to set a good time. And then the thought of the marathon, I'm like, I can't even imagine trying to push my body for like 4 hours. Like the thought, I can't even really comprehend how somebody would run a certain pace for that amount of time and like a pace that's pretty hard. So I'm like, I just want to do it easy. And he was like, that's fine. Like, we'll just do it like a training run. Like you'll do really easy paces. And then as it got a little closer and I really started progressing through training and my mileage was going up, my times were coming down. I had a training run that was like a week or two beforehand. That was a 16-mile training run. And then there was actually the day before I was driving on Montauk Highway, when I was seeing signs for like a Suffolk County half marathon. And so I was like, let me look this up. And it was like a cool route that went over the beach bridges. And
that's pretty
so
sick.
I signed up for this half marathon just as a training run because I had 16 actually to do. So I woke up early. I jogged to the starting point, which was like at the Babylon train station. So it was like a 2-mile jog for me to get there. And then I ran this beautiful half marathon. And then I still had like 2 more to do after I finished. So like I went through like the finishing gate and then came back around and like was going backwards like up where people were running back and everyone's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I got another 2 more to do. Like, and they were like thinking how nuts it was kind of dawning on me then like, I just I PR'd my last year's half by like over 5 minutes.
That's sick.
It still kept
on a
going.
training day where I warmed up and I'm still cooling back down. And then I was like, maybe I can like try to set myself a little goal for the full half. So maybe I'll actually, I hit my coach up then. I was like, all right, I want to run the marathon. So just set up a pacing plan for me. And it was like more aggressive than I'd ever imagined that I could kind of run, like running sub running sub 8-minute for me would be like threshold runs that I would do for like 5-10 minutes at a time, maybe up to like 30 minutes at a time. But they were always interval-y, never like, all right, do this for 3.5 hours, you know? So that was, I would say, the bigger, because I don't really doubt myself that much when I'm probably on the other side, like in an overconfident way, probably too many times. It's almost like just going back to kind of fighting again. Like every guy thinks that he's so competent in fighting,
Until you get
and then you
punched in the
take
face.
like one class and you spar like one time, and you realize, like, oh, all I do is lift weights. I don't know fucking shit about fighting or about grappling or about whatever it is. I think I probably do that too much in everything. But running, I'm like, oh, I could run. Like even like high rocks. Now that you got a taste of it a little bit, you start to look at what these elite guys are doing. You're like, oh, I could probably do that. I train a little bit. Like I could probably get there.
You get a taste.
Not that you can, honestly, because I'd rather take that mindset than the other of like, I'll never be that good. That's not even worth me trying.
Well, then you'll never be that good.
Correct.
And that's
Yeah.
the thing.
And then
you'll
you
never
do
be
that with
good.
everything.
Yep.
And you're just average at everything.
Yep.
So I'd rather be like a little bit delusional and then take this long hero's journey to get to the top of this.
Yeah, but you kind of
you
have to be delusional in order to achieve some level of greatness.
But that's how I felt necessarily about running a little bit. It's like, I'm sure I could run if I really spent a lot of time with it. And these guys just do that, so that's why they're good at it. And they're so light, and they love running, so that's why they do running. But no, it was a good experience. I probably won't do another marathon for probably some time, if ever, and I'll just keep working on the shorter stuff.
Right.
And So I ran a 3:30 marathon, basically, 3:28. So I would say the next big thing that I would care about would be running sub 3 hours, which is like a sub 7-minute pace, basically. So I'll run half marathons and shorter distances, and then so that'd be a 1:30 half marathon, which realistically would be like a 1:25 half marathon because you got to double it. You're going to lose some time. So if I can do that, which is like 15 minutes faster than where I'm at right now. So it's a little over a minute mile pace faster than what I would be able to do right now, which in running terms it's a big difference.
Oh, yeah.
You know, in the beginning, when you're a little slower, you can go from 12 minutes to 10 minutes and 10 to 9 or 8. And then once you start getting to like 8 to 7 and 7 to 6 and 6 to 5, it's like a world of difference. 100%. You know, like these guys are fighting for years to shave off a couple minutes on their marathon eventually. So I'll play around with shorter stuff, but I'll just get back in the weight room.
Well, that delusion of greatness paid off, dude. So
yeah.
So now you recharged. I know you went down to Florida. You were with Mike. So how was your recharge? How was that for you mentally?
Good. I mean, I don't like to be off for too long because I'm big on momentum, and when I'm off, it's just so easy for me to just be off.
Of course.
Like, and diet will fall off, and then it's like now that I haven't ran for. It's been about, I guess the marathon was on the 3rd. It's the 26th, been 23 days where I've ran a couple runs, like 2-3 milers. I think I did one, maybe 8 miler in Florida, but I already feel like I haven't ran in like a year.
Yeah.
And like my diet's not been as good.
What was your regimen before the marathon? Like your normal Monday through Sunday regimen. What was your
pretty much 6-7 days a week of
many miles
running? Or I think when I got probably
at your peak of training.
When I got a month or two out of before the marathon, the mileage was getting really high. I was getting into like the 40 miles per week range, which there's only
miles per
there's 7 days a week. So to get to 35 would be 5 miles a day. To get to 42 would be 6 miles a day.
Jesus.
So I was running just around 5-6 a day on average, usually 5-6 in a session, maybe one day off, and then one longer run that would be 13, 15, 18, whatever it was. So when I was like a month or two out, I hit my coach up and I was like, I think I need this. I want to start biking or something like that. Like this is getting a little too much. Like running every day I'm having this long Sunday run of like,
I remember
15 miles,
I remember.
2 hours, 2.5 hours, 3 hours. And then I'll look at the schedule for Monday and it's like easy run 1 hour. I'm like, I can barely run today. My knee, like some of the runs I was like fucking hobbling a little bit. Like my knees, like God. I don't really recover from a 3 hour run by the next day. It takes me like 2 or 3 days to feel like I can like bend down deep again without any soreness.
Walk down a flight of steps.
Yeah, just like regular stuff. Where I'm like,
100%.
I can't really have an easy day after I had, I never ran 18 before in my life, and I would do an 18 and then have a run the next day. Whereas, so I was like, I think I want to start getting on the bike, which was really helpful for me. So I felt like my
Moved a little bit of
legs were
lactic acid
withering
around,
away.
yeah.
The first bike I did was like an easy 45-minute bike. The next day, my quads were like ripped like I did a 3-hour squat session, like deep soreness. And that in my head, I was like, my muscle is getting away from me. Like, this is bad that I rode the bike for like 45 minutes and my quads are smoked as if I did a squat session for like
different
maxed out
muscle
for an hour.
dude.
So I really let weightlifting get away from me when I was doing all the running. Like I said, it was just too much time for me. You know, running a 3-hour session is 3 hours of running, but I would sometimes drive to the trail and then need some time after. So it's like 4 or 5 hours out of my fucking day that I'm spending going to train and forget about after that. I don't want to do shit.
No, you don't want to do anything, dude.
Like, I'm pretty useless. Honestly, I'm tired. I need a nap. I'm like cranky, you know. I'm like, I need to eat infinite amount of food to even get back to somewhere around baseline. So yeah, it got too much, but it was like 6-7 days a week of running. And then when I subbed out some of the running, it was 6-7 days a week of run today, run tomorrow, bike the next day, run the next day. And then some little combination, like I was telling you, of basically in the running world, there's just paces basically. So you have some days that are just easy. You don't really worry about the pace too much, just slow, and you knock some miles out. And then some days are
a little bit more
aggressive, and they're a little bit like longer intervals at more medium paces. And then some days are a little bit more peak style, like track work sessions where you're doing, you know, 1 lap, 400 meters or 800 meters, and you're doing them at pretty high paces that you only hold for a couple minutes at a time. So it's just a little medley of work. And then some bike work that would be the same thing. One day an easy long day, and another day 20, 30 second intervals or something like that. So I got a real intro to the cardio world for sure. Like, the running coach that I was using, Jonah Rosner, is a super high level sports science guy that has worked with Nike and stuff like that. He does 90-mile running weeks, and he's like a runner. He just lives and breathes running. So as I do with everything else, I'm like, let me find one of the best guys that knows the shit that's doing this, and I'll learn from him. And I'll just really just dive in. And so then being away from it hasn't really felt that good. So I hit him up yesterday. I was like, I need to start. I need a coach so I can have some shit on the schedule, because I'm probably not going to program my own cardio. Right. I just don't really want to do it. But if it's on there, I'll do it. And then we're getting back on our gym weightlifting kind of regiment, probably 5 days a week, 6 days a week, something like that. So it's good that winter's coming, because I'll just be back inside and just really try to bring everything together until I figure out what the next endeavor is going to be.
So when you were down in Florida, and I know you were down there for how long? 2 months?
47 days, yeah.
All right. So about a month and a half. Did you stick on to your regimen, and what were you doing down there? And I know that you went down there for the cleanup and everything, so kind of explain. So
I partnered with a couple different companies on the island, and it's I think the hurricane hit on Wednesday into Thursday, and I went to my kids' football game Thursday, and first game of the season, and then I get a call Thursday night that the hurricane's hitting. It's a real hurricane. And
the hurricane was wild.
Yeah, it was pretty, and I have some pretty interesting connections down there. Like, one of the guys I used to work with he's very big on TikTok. They have an exotic petting zoo on the East Coast. But his partner is one of the owners of the Weather Channel. So we've been chasing hurricanes down there since like 2014.
What type of animals?
Well, lions,
tigers,
yeah, giraffes.
Bears,
you could actually kayak through like rivers with the giraffes and shit. He's out in Boca. Yeah, Sean Kalin, dude. He's a good friend of mine for a long time. And so I always call him. And I'm like, what do you think about the hurricane? He's like, dude, he's on the East Coast. He's like, but the West Coast is fucked. And then my buddy Don, who owns DCR, he killed it during Ian in Naples, Fort Myers. So he calls me Friday morning, and he's like, dude, we're taking a flight today. And I just, at that point, I think my daughter was, not even a month old. Yeah. And I was like, okay. I told Jill, I was like, I'm going down there. And then you go through like this, it comes in like waves. So at first you go down there, you have to just get some type of work. If you go down there for 3 or 4 days and there's nothing, you're just going home. And then once you sign 1 or 2 jobs, now you're like, all right, do I bring guys down? So in that time period, the only thing that is normal is the gym. Yeah. So it was actually pretty, for the first, I'd say 3 weeks, because Milton ended up hitting
afterwards, right?
Yeah, dude. So
then re-destroyed.
So
everything.
Helene was a 4-foot surge, so we get down there. We fly Friday. We drive through Naples. We go up to Sarasota. There's a place called St. Armand Circle. It's the lowest point of the West Coast. And it's 3 bridges out of St. Pete and Clearwater that come down into literally a circle of probably $60-70 million worth of business. There's Tommy Bahama, Versace, high-end restaurants. So now we're there Saturday, 2 days after the hurricane. Everyone is in we still laugh about this, it's fucked up as it is. Everyone's in such disbelief that the only thing, so the water at this point has just receded back into the Gulf. And the water's still 4 feet in the restaurants. So like the closed jewelry store is a 4-foot fishbowl with their shit floating. And I guess, I don't know if it was in shock, all the people are doing are power washing the concrete outside the stores. So this guy's jewelry store is floating and he's power washing the concrete.
He didn't know what to do.
No, when I tell you disarray, like just complete disarray. The folding, the chairs and the tables are like 6 feet in. Like as you open the doors, the water comes out of the store.
Yeah, so why can't they all just open the doors?
That's what you would think they would do.
Yeah,
they just don't do that.
Okay,
I don't
that's
know.
Weird.
Yeah, and then it's also very like the industry's a very like cutthroat, scammy industry. So a lot of people are down there worried about what's going on. So the only normalcy at that time until you really start is the gym and your diet. And that's kind of what we kind of stick to. So we were pretty good. We did like a shoulders, back, chest, legs, 4 full time. So maybe 16, like 2.5 weeks. And then the mayhem begins.
Yeah.
And we were there for Helene, which was a surge hurricane. That's when the water rises and it breached St. Pete Beach, which is from the Tampa Bay to the Gulf. The entire island basically was 4 feet underwater.
Crazy.
And then now we're there. We signed a bunch of work. And they're like, oh, by the way, Milton's hitting next week. And we're like, yeah, right. So like, now we see the track in Category 4. It's literally coming over where we're staying in the Airbnb. And I'm like, fuck. So we go to Orlando, which is like an hour and a half, like northeast inland, because at least you don't have to worry about the water.
Yeah.
We rented like a mansion, like 9-bedroom, 11-bedroom, 9-bathroom house. And now Milton smokes. So now you have, it's like World War III. Like there's 2-story piles of contents. Everyone's entire life is out on the curb of the beach. And now you have a second hurricane that's just going to wash all the shit into the road.
I saw the photos that you uploaded. It literally looked like a third world country.
Yeah, and that's everywhere. And then, it didn't even rain during Helene. So now Milton comes in with no surge. I think it was like 6 inches. But now 150 mile an hour winds and 26 inches of rain in one day. And just smokes the entire area all over again. Orlando was all right, some wind, but now we come back. So now it's basically 10 days of work thrown out the window. We have to start all over again. And
in essence is good for you though. No?
It is good, yeah. But you go back to that anxiety of like, fuck, man, I don't even know. Like we're back to square one of. I mean, we signed a $1 million job that just said, yeah, fuck off. Like we're just destroyed. We'll call you 4 or 5 weeks from now.
Okay.
So now I got 60 guys down there.
Yeah.
We have 4 Airbnbs from Sarasota, Naples, all the way up to Dunedin and Clearwater. So like you just, you're paying these guys $500 a day. There's 7 car rentals. There's Airbnbs for $40,000 a month. So how long can you wait till it's not really worth it? And then now that you have like that anxiety, and then we come back from Milton, and there's no. So from the Tampa Bay bridge to the Gulf is 11 miles, 0 electric. So even if there was gas in the gas station, there was no electric to pump the gas.
Right.
So now you have that whole like kind of how Sandy was here. So we're not even thinking about it. So we drive back from Orlando. We don't gas up. We gas up, but it's still a 2.5 hour drive. So now we come back with, 7 vehicles with half a tank of gas. We can't fucking go anywhere because people are just sleeping in the gas stations. The McDonald's signs were blown out. The actual stands of the gas station that you stand under are on the ground. Yeah, dude, like real trees everywhere. Palm trees and it just absolute mayhem. And on top of the flood that happened 2 weeks ago, now you're just staying, like the Airbnb had no power for almost like a week and a half. It's still 90 degrees down there, humid as fuck.
Oh.
And now you're just waiting, and that's when we stop lifting because there's no gym. And then the work started after that. And, now you go from like this shock. Now the work comes in and you're working, you're up at 6 a.m. You're out the door at 6 in the morning. You're getting home at 7:30, 8 p.m.
Right.
7 days a week, 4 weeks straight, and just trying to, bounce all. Sarasota to. We were staying in Seminole, which is like just south of Dunedin and Clearwater. So your normal flight, your normal drive every day to Sarasota is an hour and a half each way. But if you miss the 3:30 rush and you leave at 4, you get home at 7:30.
What's your stress level like down there while this is going on?
1,000. Mental. Not
that's what I'm asking.
Yeah,
Forget
no
the physical. I know
stress.
you as a person. I know you're not physically stressed. What's your mental
So the mental
dynamic
is,
like?
So,
and are you more concerned, not to cut you off, I apologize, but I want to frame the question properly. Are you stressed about not getting business mentally? Are you stressed about having too much business? Are you stressed about allocating funds? Are you stressed about the time away from your family? Like, where exactly is the stress?
In the beginning, we take down a lump of cash with you because you're paying labor and all this type of stuff. So at one point, you're running out of the cash, and then you only have so many checks on you. You can only take X amount of dollars out of a bank daily.
Right.
So you have that whole financial issue while still signing more work. And then a lot of it's machine based. You use these dehumidifiers and air movers to dry the places out. You only have X amount of machines. So now you get these bigger jobs. Like we did one job. So I'll give you an example. When we went down there, your go-to is I find the contractors that don't know anything about drying out. And you get these nice 2,500 to 4,500 square foot houses. You do the flood cut, you take the sheetrock out, you spray the microban, the machines. It's like a $30,000 pop in and out. So now you have 5 or 6 of those lined up, which in essence is great. It's $150,000 guaranteed, couple days. Then we sign one job that's 68,000 square foot units in Boca Shores in St. Pete Beach across from the Gulf. It could be a $2.5 million job. Now do you just tell this 80-year-old woman, like, yo, I'm really sorry, I need these machines to make real money, or do you do the right thing, which is what we do? And now you're kind of like juggling these 2 jobs, and then it just gets bigger. So now by week 4, you have Boca Shores with 68 units. You're up in Edgewater, which is in Dunedin, 45 minutes north. You have another 80 units. You're down in Sarasota with a 7-store building where wind force rain just pissed through all the windows. The whole place is soaked. The paved fucking road is gone. It's dirt. It used to be a black asphalt fucking road. It's just gone.
Erosion.
Yeah, it's in the dumpster that we put during Helene on the Gulf was in the international fucking whatever that's called, the water that runs all the way down.
Swept away?
Oh, it was it was on the north side of the island.
Jesus.
Yeah, in the water. And so you're just in this disarray, and you're trying to find out like who's more important, because you're doing the right thing, but you still need to make your money.
Yep.
And that's when it gets crazy. And then you make it. I struggled, actually, believe it or not. And it's funny because you always talk about the fucking fatherhood episodes, but I struggled. I really am pretty good at shutting off my life and working, and then shutting off work and going back to my life. And I had a fucking breakdown. My daughter's young. She was a month old. That doesn't really bother me much.
How?
Because they don't really do anything. Do I have 5?
But it's your new.
I know, but
how?
I have 5 kids. It's like it's the 5th.
Fuck it. Here's just another one.
Yeah, like she's just doing her thing. Jill takes care of her really well, and but for me, it was I have a really attachment issue with Jax. He's like daily needs me. He sleeps with me every night. But it was Brody. So Brody started like anyone who has kids, especially boys, like they have this like 2-year-old stage where they become themselves. Like Mickey's like the architect, lawyer, argumentative. Jax is like the doofball, loves sports. And then you don't know what Brody's going to be. And Brody winds up being like the tough guy, stand up for his brother.
You knew exactly what Brody was going to be like.
But I was waiting for it. And now I'm in Florida, and it's the same fucking thing every day. I wake up at 5:45, 6. I FaceTime Jill, who answers the phone at like 7 in the morning, and then I usually FaceTime them like 7:30 before bed. And it's always the same shit. Mickey's playing video games, Jax is on his computer, Brody takes the phone and just walks with it and ends up just putting it down, and that's how I end it. But this one day, and it's contradictory because it's like, well, you're in paradise. Taylor was down there. Like, now it's cleaned up a little bit. You're starting to get back to normal life, and there's this massive bridge. It's got to be 4 or 5 miles long that goes from St. Pete to Bradenton down to Sarasota. And, the Gulf's on your right. the bay's on your left, you're on the sun's rising, and I do my normal day, and Jill always answers the phone, and this time Brody answers it. And now, like, he's been speaking a little bit more the sentences are getting longer. He only wears jeans. That's his new thing. He calls me fucker. So it's like, but now he's like using it correctly, and he answers the phone, and he goes,
hold on, what do you mean using it correctly?
So it's not like he just goes like, oh, fucker. Like, he answers the phone and goes, what's up, fucker? And bro, I lost my shit. I cried to the point where I had to pull my truck over for probably 40 minutes. I didn't want them to see me crying. Jill heard me, so she had to take the phone, and now it's why is daddy crying? And like, I've always done very well separating. It really is hard being an entrepreneur and growing while still trying to be there for your kids.
I'm sure it is.
But that was the mental breaking point of like, I got to get the fuck out of here. But we're making so much money. Like, how do you can't just,
No, you can't shut it off.
You can't just shut it off. And that's when I really struggled, man. And it was like 2 more weeks after that until I could even think about coming home. And that was the first and only real struggle that I had. When he answered the phone, what's up, fucker? And I just had a full-blown fucking breakdown.
So, like, same question that I asked Taylor then, being away from your family, being away from your daughter, having missed Brody go through that stage, what did you then take away from this trip? Maybe as a father, that's different for you, that maybe you can do differently moving forward.
I mean, at the end of the day, you have to, we've talked about this in the past, is you need to provide for your family. And this is what I do for a living. So, and it's real fucking money. It's the average person's salary in America times 7 or 8 that I make in 6 weeks.
Yeah.
It's not $100,000.
No, of course.
So, we're building a house and shit on our own and growing as a family. So like, this had to be done.
You pay your dues now, it pays off later.
Yeah, and I would still do it all over again. But I think doing it differently, I would go into this knowing that's going to happen. So like, I thought I was like a reality check. Like I think I'm the shit, but I can handle any amount of stress when it comes to work. And I would do it. Let's say there's another hurricane next year. I would do it knowing like my breaking point is 2 or 3 weeks instead of thinking I can go down there for 3 months.
So would you do anything different maybe with your family before going down?
Yeah, that's what I would do. Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, I would probably, I'll probably, so in my industry, end of November to March, April is your big, busy season. Mm-hmm. And I take for granted the summertime. I take the jet ski on my own. I'll go out to some dinners at night. Like I think next year, moving forward, July and August, I'd probably be a little bit more family-oriented stuff. I like
that. That's big.
We're planning some stuff now, like Disney World and shit like that we can just spend a little bit more time and take it for granted because I've missed a lot. Like my 13-year-old crushed, I think they went 6-0 in West Bab, first undefeated team in like 10 years. But he broke the West Babylon running back record for the most touchdowns. Awesome. I missed every fucking game. But I explained to him, like, he wants to go to St. Anthony's, it's $13,000 a year. I got to pay for it. This is how I make my money. He's starting to understand what I do for work. But, like, I regret that big time because he really is that good. Yeah. And I missed everything. I got his first game and his last game. Now he's starting basketball, which is cool, but you can't get that back, you know? And that's what I would do differently is spend more time with them July and August and then plan, like, Jill had some surgeries and stuff, but we were supposed to go to Anaheim with Taylor. And we're going to go to Disneyland. And so like that's what we did is we scheduled everything for after the hurricane. Okay. But shit happens, life happens. And it ended up kind of all kicking back in our face. So going forward, I would schedule beforehand and not take it for granted. And then hit the hurricane season because she's cool as shit, dude. She backs me 1,000%. And,
yeah, you're super fortunate.
Yeah, I really am. And I think about it all the time. And I mean, literally, like I got a call the other day, literally. I was up, my truck's back, Florida's done. And I get a call 4 days ago, like, hey, there's a job, $350,000. Like, hey, we're going to go down there on Monday. And I'm like, fuck. So now I'm booking next Monday. I go down for like a week and a half. And she's like, yeah, no problem. Like she just had surgery. She's got 4 kids full time. She's still working and she support. You need to be supported by whoever you're with.
Infinitely important.
Yeah, I think a lot of people underappreciate that, and their egos are too big to say, I do this on my own. Like the male crown needs a female crown, and vice versa. Because if I see it with my other workers, like the guy who goes down and the wife doesn't understand why he's not back
And
yet.
he's miserable the whole time.
yeah.
And now he's not fully he's not
man.
fully submersed into
Yeah,
work.
I see it a lot. And I went through a lot of workers. I had 20-something guys of my own down there living in, I think the one Airbnb we stayed at cycled 15, 20 people in 4.5 weeks. And
That's wild.
You know, who had to go home and who didn't and who was hurting. And, you know, you realize, again, like you could fake it for so long until that issue comes out, and now you're 1,200 miles from home, and who really supports you and who really understands what you do for a living. And when you have someone that really just backs you 100%, dude, it makes life so much easier to do what you need to do, which I'm thankful for. But I definitely took for granted.
You gonna have more kids?
No, we're done.
Are you done?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
Not 100%, but close to it.
I want to know when the lineage is just gonna stop with you.
Yeah, they all look like Mickey, so I don't know. See if another one come out looking like Jax. I don't know. It was fun. I told Taylor to come down. You know, he mentioned coming off the marathon. And I'm like, dude, just come down. We were in a town called Seminole, which I never even heard of, but it's just like there is fucking nothing.
Right.
For like probably 2 square miles, dude. If you were blind and you drove there or blindfolded, you would think you're in like Western Kentucky, right? Like, but then a mile, you have this beautiful Gulf Beach, and then 40 minutes east, you're in the city of Tampa, which is absolutely beautiful.
Yeah,
I've never been there.
Oh no,
No, it was my first time.
Yeah,
dude.
Tampa's really cool.
It was, I mean, Ocean Prime, Meat Market. Then you have like this whole little where the university is, Hyde Park, and Ybor City, and it really is a beautiful, clean city. So I'm like, oh, come on down. And I'm like, you want to work? He's like, yeah, fuck it. So we got to see what goes on with the mold, and you know, we had some asbestos in some of the rooms, and the demo and the politics of it, and it was pretty fun.
How was that for you?
It's fucking hard. Not the life I want to live.
Wait, so I was going to ask, would you want to do it again? Would you want to do the work again and
It
kind of
depends.
be in the
Also, it's Florida, so it's fucking 90 degrees basically. We're in
every day.
jeans and hard hats. And
steel-toe boots.
inside fucking places that don't have electricity,
I'm
basically.
sure.
So,
I'm sure. Again, you and I were just talking about that when I used to be a carpenter. So like, I understand the steel toe boots, the jeans, and then a friggin' long sleeve shirt in 90-degree weather. It's
but I don't do that, dude. I dress.
I know
like
you
this
don't do
for
that,
work.
but
So-
you have guys
No,
that do
down
that.
there I had to do it. I got
you were
I got
actually-
kicked off a job site at one point. Yeah. So you know what's pretty funny? So I do work for a big company, right? They're huge, almost $1 billion company. And they call us up, and the head of operations calls us. He's like, hey, I need an asbestos guy. So we have some companies down there that we do work with, and we show up, and I do the walkthrough, and then I had to go back at 3 o'clock. And in my industry, I'm pretty like cutthroat. You know, like I'm not an easy guy to deal with, and believe it or not. And he calls me back, and I said, yo, bro, I got to go back to the job site and just take a look with my guy. And his answer, we just met, never met, over the phone. He goes, all right, Mr. Maxwell, you know, Deep South. He goes, I just want to make sure one thing is straight. You're not my fucking company. You are a sub. So make sure you act accordingly, and you do not wear my attire. And I'm like, yeah, no problem. I call back the project manager. We go, who the fuck is this guy? He's like, dude, that's the COO. Like, that's the head of the operations. And like, you realize, I always wonder like how you get a company like a mom and pop to grow to these massive companies. Like they're almost publicly traded. And that is how these guys do not fuck around, dude. And it's you know, they have in-house safety guys.
Is that your end goal?
My end goal would be to be bought out by someone like that.
Okay.
Yeah, not to actually run it. And just be kind of like the behind the scenes brains of the operation. Because I am good at expanding into other territories in a quicker fashion than normal, but I wouldn't want to be like the actual CEO of it. And but it taught us a lot of like, these guys don't fuck around. And you know, I showed up, and I didn't even bring jeans down there. I brought shorts and Vans. So I did bring my boots. So I had to go to like the, you know, some outdoor spot and buy like Carhartt jeans and work shirts, and you know, we had like the safety hats, the glasses, the whole 9 yards, and that's not how we've normally done it in the past.
You're not a PPE guy.
No,
no
not at all.
No OSHA rules for you.
Zero. But what's crazy is it's the OSHA within their own company. Right. You know, it's like their own drama, and it was interesting to see that, because I mean, these guys, you know, massive companies. They're doing $1 billion a year, and it was cool we ended up going to Tampa Bay Bucks game, and like just shutting off the work talk and talking life, and then you hear how these guys came about and their stories, and they're just normal fucking Joe Schmoes, man.
Yeah.
That took the leap at the right time and took a chance at a lower level, understood what it took to climb it, and now they run these massive companies.
Bro, we talk about that all the time. That leap of faith is super important. And it always happens at the right time.
It does.
Always
It does.
at the exact right time that it needs to be done. Yep. Are you taking any leaps into anything new lately?
That's a good question. I don't know.
Thank you.
I got to think about it.
What about you?
No, my biggest thing is we're going into I got a whole work. I don't know what the word would be. We have a whole game plan really to hit like Massachusetts, Vermont.
That is a leap of faith.
Yeah,
That's something
Rhode
entirely
Island.
new
So
that
I've been flirting with it this year because we're crushing it in Connecticut, and I found a guy that can really help me out and understands. My biggest problem is, a paid position in my company in Massachusetts is probably $250,000 a year effortlessly. Okay. I can't lay that out to hope I get the job. So I need to find someone that sees my vision and says, okay, I'm down. When we make it, we'll whack it up. But until then, I'm down. And I found that. And he's fucking killing it. So we're actually going to get an office down in Sarasota.
Sick.
Yeah.
Bro, that's a huge thing.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I'm going to partner up with DCR's kid, Don. And the other thing, too, is it's funny. You mentioned before, like what you notice. Again, stayed with 15 to 20 different guys. Some of them I've known for 15 years. And two guys specifically, like, bro, we did everything together. We woke up every day and had breakfast. We had dinner every night before we went to bed. We worked every day. We were glued like this for about 32 days straight, the first clip of days. And I could have stayed with them for a year. Like,
yeah, man.
You just hit, and then the guys you think you're going to end up hitting with,
you don't hit it off.
Yeah,
with
but you're like, get the fuck out of here. Like, I'm
There's
just
always
going to
an
fly
excuse.
you home.
Yeah. Leave me alone.
Yeah, and the guys that go are the guys that are like, yo, I'm just down for whatever. Like, I trust you that, like, what do you want to make for the 2 months that we're down there? $10,000 a month? All right, fine. I guarantee you, I'll give you the $20,000. It'll be out of my own pocket. And like, they really trust me.
Yeah.
When other guys are like, oh man, I don't know, let me get a deposit. Like, fuck out of here, And
I also know you as the businessman, and I've seen the way that you've conduct yourself and the acumen that you have. And I know when you say you're going to do something,
I appreciate that.
It's done. Like every time I've
Yeah.
seen you do it.
Yeah.
So like, that's very admirable as an owner, because a lot of people are in it to kind of be shiesty and make it for themselves.
Yeah.
But I've never not known you, especially not only from the stories that you say, but from what the other people in your life that I've gotten to be close with say about you. You've always kept your word as a businessman and have given to the workers.
Yeah.
I think that's dope.
Yeah, that was one of the learning curves. Is like I came back with like two best friends.
Sick,
it was cool.
dude. That's such a gift, right there.
We
bro.
talk differently. Like before Florida, it was like work talk, but now like let's go out to dinner twice a week
and that's
talk this. And
so
grow
like
this,
not
grow
only
this
did you
away.
take away a buku amount of money from this,
Yeah.
you also took away this new outlook that you have of the things that you want to implement into your family dynamic, and you walked away with different relationships. What's better than
Pretty
that,
successful.
bro?
Yeah, I guess so.
That's a sick trip, dude.
I agree.
And then you got your whole running thing, bro. You realized what you love, what you don't like, kind of where you want to be at. Yeah. Both of you blessed gifts.
Nice. I want to turn to you now.
What about your leaps?
Huh?
What about your leaps?
Yeah,
My leaps have been sick.
I'm
dude.
excited about to talk about
My
some of
leaps have been
these.
really cool. I actually, with you, and you and I just went to lunch the other day, and I briefly said it to you. And back in, because I just got into the full moon rituals when me and Tyler went and did it. That was the very first one that I ever did in depth. So I took a lot of that away. And I remember when I did one the next month, when everything crumbled on me, remember? And you texted me when I was at OG, and you said, how was your full moon ritual? And I said, bro, I cried like an infant, spit, drool. And you said something that it stuck. And I remember you said, are you really as healed as you think you are? And that has stuck with me for months. And because Alex,
you weren't.
I was, but I wasn't. But here's the thing, right? So Alex is now Eons is my mentor. That is my mentor for the next year, and him and I do a lot of work together. And we went over a bunch of things that I was writing at that time and things that I was asking for. So within my prayers, within my own psychedelic medicine journeys and things like that. And that question really stuck with me because as I'm going back into the readings with Alex, the things that I was asking for, he shed light on the importance of you have to be stripped of all these other things that you think are serving this purpose and this version of yourself that aren't going to follow with you to the next level that you want to ask for. So I really was thinking about that question, like, are you as healed? I don't think it came down to the level of being healed. I think it came down to what I was asking for. In return, I had to give up so much of what I thought served me that no longer was going to serve the new version of what I wanted to become. And that really tied into, like one of the, which Kate has been so important. Like I talk to her a lot. I wound up somehow, some way, and it really stems back to High Rocks because this will transition me into what I want to talk about. I wasn't going to do Chicago. You know, I was training like an animal for it, an absolute animal. I was in the gym twice a day, 7 days a week, going for runs, doing this, like doing things that I've never done before with running and certain types of training programs. And I am so happy I went because the gentleman that I did it with, Mike, the relationship, like how you formed with your two guys down, him and I got so close in the last month. And I mean, him and I have been going out to eat together and we just talk. And it's almost like doing a mini podcast episode privately when I'm with him because I really get to pick his brain about his lifestyle and how he came up and certain struggles that he deals with. And it formed a companionship that I think is so deep. And I don't have anyone like that in my life. So that was like a first for me in that aspect. And then when we were down there.
Why were you going to bail on it?
Because of work.
Oh.
Yeah. So I had a potential business trip and an expo that I had to attend, which thank God I didn't attend. And when I went down to Chicago with Mike, you realize as you're doing this race with somebody, there's such a camaraderie that's built because where I lacked, he picked up. Where he lacked,
100%.
I picked up. And you're doing this with someone, and the entire time, because I did it by myself in New York, hated it. I hated it the whole time. That's why I asked you if you were questioning, you know, what's the point of me doing this? I'm cramping by like my 6,000th meter and I'm like, why am I doing this? And then I'm just going through the motions. You have someone there who's like smacking you on the ass and he's like, let's go. And like that drives you. And then the people are there and you hear your name being screamed in the background and you just get that quick burst of energy. And we finished like top 20 or top 25 out of like 280 people, which what a feeling that
almost
was.
sub-hour.
Oh
right?
my God, almost sub-hour. So it ignited a different drive in me, which I had and still have with, you know, fighting and stuff. Because I remember when I first started martial arts, it's like the drive and the passion and the energy to step into the ring and do these fights and do this and then train people. It's the same feeling, that definiteness of purpose to want to do something else. And I have that now to do it in New York and do it with Mike and complete that sub-hour. But everything works out for a reason, right? So as I was down in Chicago, lo and behold, I meet someone who works at a practice as a really like well-known, successful social worker. And we were sitting at sushi together, just happened to be at dinner together. And we're talking, and I started divulging what I do in the mental health and a lot of these other things that I'm planning, which I'll get into after that because I know you want me to tap into that. And we just had a beautiful conversation. And she's like, when you get home, let's get coffee, let's sit down. And you know, a lot of people are full of shit. They're like, I have this opportunity, you know.
Deal with it all the time.
Yeah, bro, like I have this. You know how many times I've been offered, you're going to be a millionaire? I have this opportunity, just follow what I say. Okay, and then it never happens. Her and I met when we got home, and a week later, which was yesterday, you were at lunch with me when I got that phone call, which was the, hey, like you got this opportunity. Now it's like, you know, you got the opportunity. You have to now make the foundation solid. You have your interview here. I got it last night.
Nice.
Like done. It's mine. It's done. and I am officially a executive functional life coach for children, young teens, and adults that struggle with ADHD. And like everything I've been asking for in my prayers, in my journaling, with my mentorship, it's come to fruition tenfold, because it doesn't just stop there. My life coaching has exploded exponentially, and it got me involved with all different types of avenues that I wanted so bad, and I spoke it out loud, but it got me actually set in stone, solid connections, done, signed contracts with all these different avenues that I'm finally tapping into to kind of complete my fulfillment and my purpose. And it's a wild feeling, because I'm in this mindset and this kind of like state of mind now where I am on cloud 9 24/7.
Healed.
Life is not work anymore, dude. Yeah. Life is not work. Like my whole life is now play. I wake up and I'm playing, and I get to really.
But it found you though. That's what
but it already belonged to me.
Right.
So that's the thing. Like, I'm a big believer in like the quantum leaping and things like that. And that whole thing about quantum entanglement, which a lot of people may know, may not know, it already what I want, what my purpose, my fulfillment is, it already belongs to me in the other dimension. So like there's this whole brain thing where your brain is capable of accessing 11 dimensions, which is done by the Brain Institute. That's not like my own nonsense. That's an actual proven theory that the brain can access 11 dimensions. So I was able to access what my purpose was in a different dimension, and I just had to pull it in by letting go of my fear of being broke, because again, like, I don't know if you knew, but like all of my money got taken from me, relationships got taken.
But that starts when you are starting to project that. A lot
So-
of people don't get that part.
So that's the thing, like everything was taken from me. One, because it had to be.
Yes,
Two,
the death of
because
the ego.
Two, because exactly, I had to go through another ego death, which is like my 6th one that I've been through. I've died so many times over, and this was the best death that I could have ever asked for, and it now launched me into this space where, with Madison, that I do the other show with, we are getting heavily involved into the mental health space collectively. And we are now going to be doing all different types of galas. And I am in the talks of doing a potential collaboration with a really well-known institution that's heavily ingrained with wanting to do mental health and how important that is for their community. And we're going to be hosting probably like the sickest gala that anyone is ever going to attend, with his mind, my passion, the connections that we've made. We have crazy sponsors for the gala.
Can anyone buy tickets, or is it like
so what we're going to do is, and everyone watching, because I want everyone that's listening to this, anyone can sponsor this gala, anyone. So we have everywhere from, like, my tattoo artist is offering a $2,500 full session tattoo.
Wow.
Crazy. I have other tattoo artists. I have estheticians. I have so many restaurants.
So that Drew Barrymore show
sponsored it. Like, nuts. All these different things. I have Dr. Castro is sponsoring it, so he's going to be offering packages. It's just, everything is working in such a beautiful way. So the way it's going to work is you're going to basically buy tickets to come in, and then we're going to have like a Chinese auction in there where we're going to have different tiered packages and sorts, where it's going to be like a $20 ticket, $10 ticket, $1 ticket. And I know with who I'm going to potentially be doing this collaboration with, this is not just going to be where you come in, sit down, have dinner, leave, and never talk about it again. Absolutely not. There's going to be things that are going to be happening at this event where you're going to leave, and for the next couple months, you're going to be like, yo, do you remember that at this night, at that event? And that's what we're looking for. And I have a live painting a live artist who's going to be doing like a 6-foot canvas of mental health painting live, which we're going to auction off. So it's really cool. It's really, really cool. And all the proceeds that we get, we're going to donate to the 2 specific charities, which are going to be for suicide prevention and addiction awareness. So it's like, life has been perfect.
I think it was fun to watch. I was watching a lot of it in Florida, and I've mentored handfuls of people, and one of the biggest things, and you can't talk to someone about it because they're going through it. You know what I mean? And a lot of people, I don't know if this makes sense it's in my thought, but we'll see if it comes out right. So like,
I'll reiterate it.
The average person, right, is not who you think you are.
No.
So you are the 1,000 people around you's trajectory of their thought on you. So like, Ian doesn't exist. It's Taylor's version of Ian. You can look in the mirror all day and say, I'm this, I'm that. You're none of that.
No.
You're whatever we fucking think you are.
Correct.
And until you can accept that, to me, that's like unhealed. So I remember the ritual that we did and the fucking slew of shit you went through the next month. And again, like you're manifesting this, but simultaneously dying of what you are. And a lot of people don't get that has to happen.
Hold on, before, I would like to say, in that ritual, do you remember what I pulled?
Mm-mm.
I pulled a card where the troubles are going to. I pulled a Loki card,
right,
and the Iwas, which I think is, or I think it was Iwas, where it was, you're about to be real stagnant.
Yeah.
And everything's about to freeze. It was the freezing card.
Okay.
So it was Loki and freezing. And when you told me what I pulled, you and I looked at each other like, shit.
Yeah, I remember that.
You know?
Yeah.
You and Tyler had incredible pulls. Tyler pulled Odin. You pulled Tyr.
Yeah.
I pulled Loki.
Yeah. I know. I remember being
and
like,
a freeze card. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
But I didn't feel... I didn't know what was about to come.
I remember reading it. I'm like, oh my God, bro, this guy is fucked.
Yeah.
And then like the next month, he's like, yo, this is happening. And then in my head, I'm like, oh, I know. And like, you can't really, and then like you would be throwing on, like when you go out and you again, like you have to manifest what you want and put the time in, but it has to come to you almost totally organically.
Yes.
Because you can go out and find, oh, well, this happened to me. No, motherfucker, you went out and found that. It's still your ego, So that's why I thought it was awesome because, we would, not that we would butt heads, but we did have a lot of disagreements on like guests here.
Yeah.
Because I'm more of like past, I don't really like talking about the current trauma. I like dealing with people post healing,
right.
And you like healing them, which is very significantly different. And I remember I was talking about, you should do this podcast and then, kind of like come back and forth on them. And again, like you're just kind of throwing shit at the wall and seeing what sticks. And it's still like, again, for you to go off, and I was telling you this at lunch, for you to go off, start your own podcast, like you're still the same fucking Ian. It's just because you're Ian, it doesn't mean anything. But now this shit starts to happen, and now it's coming to you, and now you have like this position and these requirements and you're gonna get these licenses, and now you're becoming that person organically from the outside in. Which is like I call it the healed version is like they chose you, whatever you believe in, chose you to do this. You didn't put yourself there. Like, who the fuck bumps into someone in Chicago 600 miles away at a random
I just
dinner?
got the chills. That's what I'm saying,
you're not gonna do.
bro.
Like, that's what
at a trip I wasn't
supposed to be in.
Exactly.
Yeah, like that divine timing is when you're like, okay, this is the right route. And like, like if I'll give an example. So like I hear about the gala, my first initial reaction, like, motherfucker, we have like the men's mental health is such a huge, broad, you could hit so many fucking things,
100%.
right? And you're like, I want to kind of like what, and then I feel hear the specifics. I'm like, bro, this shit is so perfect from, I know a little bit more about it and I know who's involved and I know that is, I wouldn't have picked a better fucking person. But again, it's the fact, I feel like if you would have done that 2 months ago,
wouldn't have worked. It wouldn't have worked because I wasn't me.
Yeah.
I was trying to be, and granted, listen, like I was doing a lot of beautiful things for a lot of people 2, 3, 4 months ago.
It's on a different level.
It's different when when I am now the living, breathing, soulful embodiment of what I always believed I could be and wanted to be. And now all of the outside, as within, so without. So everything that I now put in is really coming out. And it's a really beautiful place to be in because now there's so many other doorways which are now opening within that executive coaching position and all these other avenues that I can branch down and do. And it's just, there's no part of me at all that regrets or feels any type of angst of what transpired since June. I am so thankful. And on the car on the way in, I was bumping Kanye West this morning. So there's this song which if I ever do another fight is going to be my walkout song. It's called Can't Tell Me Nothing. And it's like that, that one. And the words of the first like 10 sentences in there, me, to a T. And it's just all of the times that I took for granted my ancestors, my beliefs, my faith, all the money that I had coming in. And like, although again, like I'd give it away, I'd spend it. It was everything I needed to go through to get to this, where I'm sitting on this couch. I was bumping Kanye this morning, like, yo, manifestation ain't like that shit's real, dude. Like you speak it out and then you just let go of all that fear and all of that internal struggle of, well, what happens if this doesn't work out? What happens? Fuck that, dude. Like it is all worked out. And the advice that I can give to anyone, if you believe it and you want it, yo, it's yours. Like it is completely 100%
just can't
yours.
Give up on the death of everything around you that makes room for what you need.
You have something called a definiteness of purpose. And when you find that, there is nothing. And this is really what I've been telling myself. There's nothing in this world now that is going to pull me away from my purpose. The same way that your purpose is to build your syndicate in this conglomerate, which you've done, and you've exceeded, and you've excelled, and you've created this system where you have workers and these relationships and these people who not only look up to you, but depend on you, and most of all, trust you. In the same way that you've built your businesses with your cryology, is that how I say it right? That, the gym, the personal training, everything that you do where you have people that look up to you, that lean on you, that trust you. I finally am in a position in my life where I have that, bro. And it's such a beautiful feeling. It is the best feeling that I think anyone could ever ask for.
Yeah.
Fucking like life is beautiful. It's so beautiful.
Yeah, I think you're fortunate that it's a field of service.
Oh yeah. Do you remember our first episode that it was in Salem, where I said, what is your purpose in life? We were in the car. Do you remember what you said to me?
I don't know, but I would answer it service.
That's exactly
service to
what
others.
You said.
And
your exact words were, I'm in service to others.
Yeah, I think that's,
and I
think that's our purpose.
Yeah, I feel like I I was that. I just didn't know how to access that properly. And now I'm fully.
I think you started. I think you did it as everyone else that's confused of how do I do it. I think you did what they're supposed to do, which was you found ways that you could be of service to people, and you started them.
Yes, and
then that will open up new doors for you to be of more service 100%. To people, and they'll start being of service to you. And I think that's the way that our world works. Really,
and we're not going to get into spirituality in this episode, but we will do that because I think we need to do that.
Oh, you got
especially with you, bro.
With
you, I cannot wait.
He starts talking about, I might convert.
So the thing is, and I want to say this, and it's taking a lot for me to say this. I have a real love for the ideologies behind hedonism. It no longer serves me, like this version of myself. And my beliefs have radically just transcended to something different, where I've now taken something from everything and concocted and created what I feel serves me. And like, that whole act of service, whatever God you believe in or whatever energy source, when you are doing acts of service, you're just going to continue to get blessed by your source system. And that's what I'm noticing. The more selfless, most genuine acts of service, because again, you're in acts of service. You changing people's lives by being the boss and the business owner that you are, that's an act of service. You providing for these other men to go home and be able to give back and live comfortably for their families, act of service. You being the father that you are, providing for your kids, making sure that they have a future, act of service.
Yeah. You know, the charities and all that stuff too.
All that shit, So like the more that you provide these, and whatever they look like, these acts of service, I give my thanks to my source, to my faith, to my ethereal omnipresence, whatever you want to call it. And I believe that the more that you do that, that source energy is going to look at you and be like, all right, this motherfucker's got it going on.
100%.
He knows what he's doing. Let me bless him a little bit more and a little bit more. And like, that's all that's happening. It's all that's happening.
You can't fake that.
No.
You know, you can't, there's no faking it once you, like, I mean, we were talking about it in, I had a couple of drinks in me, but we were talking about in Florida, you know, and you know, I'll see what he takes on it. But
his smile.
I was just telling him, yeah, we talking about Jesus. You know, he's talking about Jesus, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, you know, holy shit. And everything he's saying, I'm like, everything you're saying makes so much sense, you know, and I was trying to give him like my theory on like, I'm just big on how to be extra to whatever you believe in.
Of
So,
course.
you know, because if you, like, you just go to church on Sundays, everyone goes to church on Sundays. You want to, you know, give thanks, everyone gives like, you got to just do a little extra attention wise. Well, you know, I go the altar route. And I just remember explaining to him, and like, you know, when you talk to someone, like, you really see like, okay, like, I understand what you're saying. And then he's throwing back at me like pre-Christ. And I'm like, bro, this is so fucking interesting. You know, so much, it makes so much sense.
There's so much I want to talk to you about, like with the pre-Christ and everything like that when we get into that episode. But yo, like straight up, Christ, that dude's he was real. And again, real name Yeshua, like you have the whole Christ conscious and everything like that. Everything that he did, I wholeheartedly believe happened. And his whole, you know, he was into mysticism. He was into reincarnation, like all these things that he studied. You know, the Dalai Lama has absolutely proven from these Tibetan tablets and everything like that. So I am so excited to pick your brain on that because I am largely into the belief of Christ.
I know nothing about him.
Well, you're going to learn today. Like,
there's so many times where I'm reading something, I'm like, Mike would love this. I know he's of a different...
Did you read yet the book that I gave you?
The Bible?
No, the comic. Yeah, the comic Bible.
No, I got through a decent little bit of it, and then I just started really jumping around.
Okay, because I have the other books, the volume 2 and 3, and like the King James version. Is
What's the one thing
awesome.
you're talking about? The started with A and like before he came back, like where he studied
Jesus and the Essenes.
Essenes. Yeah, that shit sounds so interesting. Yeah,
there's a cool book. It's there's a bunch of different books, but there's a cool book in particular. This woman, Dolores Cannon, channels a man who talks about Jesus during the Essenes, and it goes into like the Dead Sea Scrolls, which was basically tablets that they recovered way later, like somewhat recently. I don't know, it was the 1800s or whatever. They found these tablets in like a cave somewhere, basically, and it was a lot of all these old original teachings of Jesus Christ and the Essenes who were the religion that Jesus grew up in. Basically, they were like I guess a form of Judaism maybe, but so Jesus was Jewish, but he actually was an Essene. And so there's like a lot of books that I've read about his time growing up with the Essenes and what the Essene gospel was, which is basically, it's all about love and peace.
Correct.
And there's you were mentioning like, there's things in hedonism that resonate with me, but there's also things that are not. And I think the further that I've gotten along with trying to learn, because when I first started reading the Bible, it was really interesting to me how there was like these characters like Abraham and Moses, and these characters are the guys for other religions.
Correct.
And I'm like, wow, there's so much history here, and there's so much intermingling between. I didn't know I didn't know Christianity and being a Muslim were that close, but they're actually so similar. I thought Muslims were like, at least the way that I feel like the news portrayed them to me, was that they were like almost like satanic.
No.
And they just wanted to like bomb things. And now I'm like, oh, Muslims freaking believe in Jesus.
Andrew
like,
Tate's a Muslim, you know? So
I believe now it makes sense why all these guys go to jail and like become Muslim, because there's so many things in that religion
there's so much about love and peace and
truth. And then
when I went to Turkey, it was mind blowing.
Dude, it
was the most. I mean, I never traveled anywhere else out of America, but it was beautiful.
Yeah.
And like you greeted, you have like your own interpreter, so I greet them, and the guy gives me like the double kiss hug. And I guess I must have looked uncomfortable. And she goes, "What's the matter? Is that gay in America?" And I'm like, "What?" She's like, "That's not gay in Turkey." And I'm like, "No way." And it was one of the most loving. Like, I was there for 6 days, 6 nights, 7 days. Not a single cop car, not a red light, not a stop sign, and it's mayhem population over there.
Yeah, dude.
And bro, it's straight halal.
The best
country. You know, everything is blessed and clean. They teach you everything, and it was absolutely beautiful.
And that's the thing, like, again, I know we're kind of tapping into spirituality a little bit, I'm sorry, but like to branch off what you said, the aspects of hedonism that I happen to like, the gods are human, you know, and what they are is they are embodiments of all the things that are correct of human nature. So like you have Thor, which granted Thor is this powerful god of war, whatever you want to call it. But if you really read a lot of the texts, he's an idiot. Like he's a simpleton. So when you look at these movies like Avengers, where they kind of make him look like an idiot, there are a lot of scrolls and tablets and all these different readings where they make Thor look like a moron, where he dresses like a woman and all this other things. So it's very interesting. That's what I like. That's what I've grown to appreciate about the Norse mythology. As for a book, which I'm going to get for you, it's called the Book of the 12 Disciples or something like that. And it's basically it's all the lost scrolls and tablets of Jesus's 13 years from, he leaves the Bible at 13, and then I call my son back from Egypt at 31 or something like that. So that those years,
you just talked about in the gym yesterday.
So those years of lost life of Jesus, it follows him through his teachings of Reiki. It follows through his teachings of reincarnation, which in Catholicism would be blasphemous because, that's witchcraft, that's all that stuff. So it's very interesting, and I think there's so many things about Jesus that people don't know about.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I said to him, the whole so Catholic is a spin-off essentially of Christianity, which is supposed to be Jesus' religion.
Correct.
And then we know, like I even mentioned on here when we first brought up spirituality, how all these problems that I had with Catholicism that just didn't feel
praying to saints,
didn't feel right
like
to
I
me.
got to now go through this guy to get to this guy to get to
just
that
a
guy.
lot of weirdness to it that I just never really felt like didn't really feel like home.
Yeah.
And but yeah, even Christianity really, it's so hard for anything to remain true with the way that humans work and our egos and time and like. The news now, is not the real news. So you have any of these documents that are from thousands of years ago, they're not the same document that it used to be. But yeah, there's a lot about Christianity even that when we were first going to have that spirituality episode, I think it was right after we had Kate on, I was like, I had just found Christianity. I'm like, finally, like I'm non-denominational, so I'm away from Catholicism and Jesus is the guy. And then I lasted for probably a week or two, and I started like getting like talked at by Christians of how I had to believe certain things about Christianity. Yeah. And so much of it was just like Jesus's virgin birth. And I'm like, I'm not sure if he was born a virgin. They're like, you can't be a Christian then. You can't say that Jesus was.
And their experience is just going to a building every Sunday and being told that.
Or not even.
Yeah.
Honestly,
not even,
for a lot of them,
just
they like haven't really read anything.
Right.
They just like, they're like, this is a story. If you want to believe, if you want to be on our team, you got to believe this story. I'm like, I don't know. Like Jesus was immortal. He came as immortal to show us that he was like a man, like everyone else was. And in his own words, he would say, you guys can do the same things that I'm doing. You can do them even better, he would say. So I'm like, I don't know. I actually don't even know that it matters whether he was born a virgin birth or not, because Christianity kind of just his birth, and then he kind of leaves, and then he comes back when he's like 30, and then they follow him for like a year or two, and then he dies and he resurrects. And I'm like, I'm not really sure if he resurrected. Everyone's like, you can't be Christian if you don't think that he resurrected. I'm like, it doesn't really matter that much though, because all of his life, he was like very true to the same messages, and the takeaways are no different whether you think that he was God in the flesh or from a virgin birth or died and was born. It doesn't really change anything about the teachings and what he did while he was here, which is what Christianity is supposed to be about. It's supposed to be about worshiping Christ and Christ's teachings. And even the Bible most of the Bible's not by Christ. It's not by Jesus.
No,
it's not by his 12 disciples. I think more than half of it is from Paul, who was like a self-appointed disciple of Jesus that actually used to crucify Christians before he had a mystic experience where he was riding a horse on his way to crucify Christians, and the sky blinded him, and he said he met Jesus, and Jesus said, Paul, why are you crucifying Christians, like like your brothers and our people? And he was like, no, that's not, and he's like, Paul, you're doing wrong, like you're not supposed to do this. And Paul had this awakening, and then he just stopped doing it.
Like,
and he became like the guy that was like, oh, I know exactly what Jesus would want. Meanwhile, like Jesus had a brother, James, who was like Jesus' blood brother, and Jesus said James is going to be the guy, my my predecessor after I'm gone. And Paul would just kind of be like, like none of the disciples really know that much. Like, I'm Jesus's guy, and this is what his gospel.
I know
would
so
say.
many people like that in real life.
The disciples were like his gang. Like that was like his
12 guys.
Right?
Yeah,
12
I heard
guys,
they were
dude.
like badass
hand
motherfuckers
selected,
too.
bro. They all got
Like all
killed.
the-
They all got
all like
crucified in
degenerates
different
and
ways. They
like-
got stoned. They got boiled in oil. Like all of them got killed because nobody liked. Kind of going back to how humans like ruin things. Nobody liked that Jesus would get attention wherever he went because people would hear his words and they would just know that there's truth to it.
Right.
And most of the other religions had other aspects that you have to do like mental gymnastics with to make sense. And a lot of Jesus's gospel was just very straightforward. It was about service to others and love and kindness and forgiveness and non-judgment. And there was a million ways that he tried to teach that through different myths and stories and straight up telling people things. But the Bible has a lot of things that don't make sense with Jesus's gospel. And you say, well, why is it like that? And then if you go to church, they have an explanation. Like, well, this had to happen.
And you're just going to
because-
listen to us.
You're right.
This is what the
Church
answer
has
is,
an
whether you like it
explanation
or
for
not.
everything.
They just rationalize everything.
Correct.
Just like you can do with anything, I could give someone any fitness exercise and they're like, well, this doesn't seem like it would make sense for to work my chest. I'm like, well, no, what's happening is that this angle is going to do this
Right,
for you.
right.
Yeah.
And I know it doesn't seem, but just trust. And you're like, okay. I mean, you know more than me. So, and that's how a lot of, I think how a lot of religion becomes is we don't really dive into enough of.
You just do what you're told.
You just do what you're told, and you just listen to someone that knows a little bit more than you.
I want to say something which I'm going to direct at our studio manager for a second about forgiveness. You said
He's shaking his head.
yeah, he's just
What does he
shaking
need
his
to
head.
learn?
Well, there are just those that feel that sometimes forgiveness is not super important, and it definitely is. So, teachings of Christ, big forgiveness.
So well, we got to have a bigger spiritual episode so I can try to ramble a little bit more. But I think it heavily ties back into the dimensions that you were speaking about, which are aligned with our chakras, basically. I believe, and
my God,
and
dude, I wanna do this
reincarnation
episode
and our consciousness. But basically, the way that we're meant to spiritually ascend is through love and non-judgment, and we'll continue. And as long as you judge, everyone around you is actually just iterations of yourself.
Correct. It's just a mirror
in our God cosmic.
Bro, he's been preaching it at the gym. I'm like, yo, who the fuck are you?
If you
bro?
just keep judging, then you'll just keep reincarnating over and over again till you can learn that.
I'm interested in learning it because, like, when I used to go through some shit in my life, I was always a big spiritual jewelry wearer. It's a whole nother fucking thing I'm not
All
going to
them
do.
necklaces are tangled and everything.
Yeah,
breaking
and like
when
they would
shit's about to
break.
go
Yeah,
wrong.
but I had this custom made green opal, handmade from Ireland, miraculous metal necklace of Jesus Christ. And when I would wear this fucking thing, and like when it broke, it was pretty fucking wild. And I have Mother Mary tattooed on me. I have her in a big ass fucking thing. My wife still hates it sits on my porch. Yeah, it's just for my own. The energies I agree with. I don't know about them. I could feel the energies. But I'm interested to kind of learn.
I think it becomes. I know, I'm like a little biased. Obviously, everyone's biased to what they believe, but I like that I've separated myself a little bit from a specific.
That's the best part.
Denomination, and I feel like you can't really deny some of the basic teachings.
It's the basic principles that tie into almost every belief system.
Every other religion.
It's every other belief goes off the same principles: love, forgiveness, acceptance, non-judgment, giving yourself over to a higher power.
Right.
It's all the same.
But the minute you start talking about it, they're judging you. So that cancels out right off the rip. You walk into any church, not to even get into this, but like any establishment that is a quoted establishment of some type of religion, the minute you question and it's not through their experience, it's from what they were told by someone, it's like going to a doctor that just learned from their college, that's backed by like that whole conspiracy theory. And as soon as you walk in, as soon as you question their faith foundation to be explained, and they can't explain it other than what they're just regurgitating, that's when I check out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like I said, growing up Jewish, I checked out at a super young age because I appreciate it, and I do believe in the Jewish religion foundations. But when you start asking questions out, there was no answer. It was just, well, this is the way it is. And I've always been kind of the opposite of that.
That's usually the trajectory that people take when they pigeonhole
but
themselves
when you take
into one
like
ideology.
where you're going, where like you're taking your bits and pieces and putting it together. I remember doing that, and it was fucking
And I don't
awesome.
think that's you being, subjective. I think that is you being open-minded. I think that is you being non-biased.
I think I'm trying to be actually as objective as I can
That's
be.
what I'm saying. I think you are being objective. I don't think.
How would I answer this question? And if I have to mental gymnastic to answer it, then it's not a truth.
It's a man-made
so, correct.
answer.
Yeah.
I have a question. Is there any part of you when you saw Mike and I in Salem and you saw the way that we were in certain stores, was there any bit of you that maybe was like, maybe I want to look into something and try? Was that maybe like a subconscious
No, for sure.
moment?
I think I told him from the very beginning that, and I know he's had a lot of other people say the same thing of like having a faith in something and having strong belief in something and being like devout follower to something it is like you do get envy almost from the outside of like, man, I want to believe in something that deeply and have such a strong faith in something else that's not like, so solid as everything seems to be. And so I always very much like, and I didn't know where I fit in at that point.
Right. I remember
that. I had definitely a lot of spiritual encounters in my life, and I knew that everything is not just rock and earth, and like there's a lot of higher meaning and power behind like the creation of all this and the purposes and how we interact. But I didn't necessarily know where I fit in, and I think that was a bigger thing for me when I was younger, was the ability to ask questions. And you're right, like when it couldn't get answered, or it was because I said so, or this is just what I believe. You can't just question everything, Right. Like people can just believe things, And I'm like, that's fine. I'm not really asking to prove you wrong. I'm asking to try to
genuine
understand
how the thought was created.
If you sell me on it, I'll believe with you, type of thing. But I'm not really somebody that can just hit a roadblock in thought and be like, all right, it's fine. I don't really need to go.
No, I get it.
Deeper than that.
Yeah,
I'll just keep taking it further to like, well, why? Well, what about this? Like, if something jams up the thought of, well, you got to do this to get here. And I'm like, but why are we going to go to hell? Like, but if God is merciful, then why is he going to send us to hell? Just because.
I don't believe in hell.
Yeah.
I think this is our hell. This is our hell. This is our heaven. And I believe that being on this plane, we're tapped way too much. It's spirituality.
It's great. It's great topic.
This is the hell. And while you're down here on this plane, this physical mattered presence, you have the ability to create that divine version of yourself that's going to travel with you into the afterlife. And I think that everyone's capable of doing it. And I think those, and I could be wrong, I don't know, but maybe those that finally reach their awakening and that moment in their life where they have reached that divinity, they get to go into the afterlife. And those that maybe don't know how to forgive or do anything like that, and that's a problem, they have to constantly be reincarnated to come back here, relive the same issues over and over until they break that lineage cycle. I think your job is to
break your ancestral.
You got to break your ancestral cursing, dude. Oh my God.
And I hate. That's what I hate. Like it's like a diet. Like, why are you fat? Oh, because my parents were fat and my grandparents were fat and their great grandparents were. No. It's someone has to wake up and say, I want to be healthy now.
100%.
And if you take that aspect spiritually, I think that's what we're put here for, is to take your own responsibility and make it yours to change the future of your lineage. And when that is done, you're the black, what do they call it, the black sheep of the family, the ugly duckling, like you're just the offset until you get older and you have to go through all of that and say, hey, and I get a lot of this like, oh, your kids are spoiled. The fuck they are. Like, my kids understand everything. And they understand the value, and they're going to have whatever the fuck they want, and they're not going to, I don't care if my kids live with me till they're 45. They're going to understand and appreciate what they have, because my whole lineage before me, just not that we suffered, but it's going to be a lot easier for them, and they're going to understand why it's easier. And then now the rest of my lineage, that's when you live forever. You know what I mean? And now what I did is going to change my great grandkids.
Dude,
because that's what we're spiritually here for. Whatever you want to call it is what it is. But when you actually get the validation, like stupid little shit, like I got this like Orisha money evil eye bracelet the day before Florida, right? Buddy of mine gives it to me. He's a serious spiritual dude. He goes, put it on your right hand, and that's the money. You always give money with your right, and you always collect money with your left, and this will save anyone from stealing your money that you give this to. And when the time is done, it'll break off. And this is like a nice, like $100 mala beaded, really nice bracelet from Colombia. I go down to Florida. I get back the 25th, so 2 nights ago. Mercury retrograde starts yesterday, which we'll do a whole episode on. And I'm like, all right, do I want to go back to Florida? You know, and I'm thinking, I don't even sleep at night. I've been going to bed 3 o'clock in the morning and my mind's still racing. And I turn over, bro, and the bracelet just explodes. And it didn't like it snapped, bro. The rope was this thick. It was thicker than your necklace. And it just blew up in the bed.
That's
and
wild.
Now it's 2 a.m. And I was just talking with someone about Florida of like, did I make enough money? How much is it where now it's greed? Right. I want to stay home with my family. And bro, shit, that's it. It blew up. The next morning, I woke up yesterday, I booked my flight, and I'm closing out Florida next week, and it's done. I don't care if there's $1 million job afterwards, but when I've had shit like that happen to me 100 times. People used to think I was crazy. Now people come to me for full moon readings and all this crazy shit. So once you start validating a belief in anything or something that's greater than us, and you come from that lineage, and you could see yourself changing it, which is a whole nother mental battle on top of spiritually, that's the meaning of... That's when
you've
meaning
healed
of
your ancestral line.
That's really what I feel, and I can. That's getting into the faith is like I need them to protect me while I change that.
Well, that's the legacy also.
Yeah.
Like everyone's so worried about what legacy.
That's
am I
how you
gonna
stay
leave
immortal.
behind. That's your
Change
legacy.
that lineage.
You healing that lineage is the legacy that you cement yourself into this world for your
And everyone
family.
thinks it's so drastic. Like, oh, my grandpa beat my dad. My dad beat me. I'm not going to beat my kids. Like, that's like, on a scale of 1 to 10, bro, it's like a 1. You know, like the 10 is like, you know, not telling your kids like I told you so, like little shit like that, dude, or being the reason why you explain it, or teaching them to forgive and love, or like I teach my kids like to open the door for somebody, to say thank you and you're welcome, and to make sure. Like I remember James, dude, and this kid is a fucking stud now at 13. I remember in 2nd grade, I picked him up from school, and I was nowhere near healed then. And he's, bye, Kathy, bye, Peter, bye, Nick. I go, James, shut the fuck up and get in the car. He goes, Dad, how would you feel if I had 15 people in my class and I said goodbye to 13 and you weren't one of them? And I'm like,
oh,
he was 7.
Yeah.
And I'm like, holy shit. Like little things like that. And like now, like Jackson and Mickey now are like that. And Mickey's always just talking out loud. And I feel like another big thing is like coming home, as crazy as life is, and just shutting your phone off and being present with your kids will change the lineage. Because 10 years from now, a kid's gonna have a phone at 5 years old and a fucking laptop in school at kinder. Like
they already have it.
Yeah, but
they work on iPads, dude.
Back in their head.
Yeah, I do not take my fucking, or like sticking up for your kids still. Like I just went to parent teacher conference, and we walk into Earth Science. And like this bitch looks like a fucking lizard, 2 black eyes. Like, you know, she's just sitting there like, hey, how, you know, I go, oh, how's my kid doing? He's got an 88. My kid's overall GPA is like a 97.
That's sick.
Yeah, in all honors.
That's sick.
And he's like, you know, he could be. I said, save it. I want to start talking about chemtrails, the firmament.
Bro.
Teach my kid this
I just
shit.
told my mom about the chemtrails, and her mind, I'm like, you see the grids in the sky?
Go down the firmament rainbow rabbit hole is fucking wild.
But we got RFK coming in.
Yeah.
That dude is going to implement policy.
The fact that the Lunchables were taken off I'm telling you, in the next 4 years, McDonald's might go back to cooking in fucking beef tallow.
Yeah, 100%.
That's how serious this shit might get.
I don't think, listen, we are not going to get political here because I don't want to push anybody away. All I will say...
I won't fuck with any Biden fans, flat out. So don't even bother watching the fucking show if you suck this guy's dick, because I can't even digest the thought of that. It's cool to be a Democrat and like open. I'm just going to throw it out there. I'll be the dick because I can't even listen to it.
Okay, so Mike digresses from that.
Yeah.
Yo, non-judgment.
I know.
Non-judgment.
Yeah, I'm working on that part.
But going to the whole...
Sorry, I dealt with it in Florida,
the
dude.
chemtrails and everything like that. We are going, once this new administration comes into play, see some wild changes. Which I am so excited for. Going back to beef tallow, getting rid of the seed oils,
getting back into the peptides, getting back to being legal,
Bro,
and
getting
stem
back into
cells and-
psychedelics being researched
Dude, they're
and
even
everything
doing
like
researches on. I got on these Zins, right? These nicotine packets.
Yeah.
So they did studies that, and again, I'm not the doctor, but these are reliable sources of guys that I follow.
that. Nicotine's good for you.
Dude,
Yeah.
it's anti-COVID.
vegetables.
I know.
It's anti-COVID. So they're
know.
saying that I never got COVID, but they're saying that if your nicotine level. So I went down the rabbit hole because of coffee, and if you talk to, and it's big in Florida, you talk to a lot of the Hispanic cultures in their home countries. Coffee bean grounded up is an insecticide, and it guards their vegetables in their garden.
Interesting.
So, and now you're on like Anthony Chaffin. Like these are high names
Love
that
Anthony
Anthony
Chaffin.
Chaffin
Dr.
started.
Anthony Chaffin
If he
is
told
the
me to start eating my own shit, I would. That's how I look at him. Okay, throwing it out there. So he did a whole study on how he's going down this theory of how it's not the coffee caffeine that actually gives you the high. It's your body with the caffeine fighting the poison that gives you the high. And now he's going into just caffeine and nicotine studies. And they did one from COVID. Not a single person in the study that took the nicotine level got COVID.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of people
There were
chew
smokers.
nicotine. Yeah.
Smokers weren't getting.
Smokers
they
weren't
were-
getting-
they were
right,
all
same
co-
thing.
They were confused.
Yeah.
And a lot of people
I didn't even think about that.
chew
Yeah.
nicotine gum.
Yeah.
A lot of people that were chewing the nicotine gum did not get
Dude,
COVID.
I got on these Zyn packets. I'm not to like talk, but like it's a game changer. I no more. I do a little bit of coffee, like espresso amount now, but I'm good. How clear headed I am, 24/7 during the day. I usually get foggy around like lunchtime.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like a little burn. It goes in there. I got the lower like 3s or whatever. But dude, game changer. Game
But
changer.
what is so now?
just mental clarity?
But now, if you just stop taking it,
Yeah, I don't know. I look at it as like, and the other, which we'll get into another one, but the other thing too is they're doing a whole study now on ivermectin.
oh, bro, ivermectin's
12
the shit.
12 milligrams.
Once
a
Joe
week.
Rogan like spoke that into existence,
Yeah.
and when they went after him, I said that's what I'm buying.
Yeah.
I took ivermectin when I had COVID,
Yeah.
blasted out of
Yeah,
my
they
system.
got a whole bunch of
Blasted.
anti-cancer studies on it now, and they're even doing some studies relating the high nicotine caffeine level in the blood work to anti-cancer, and it's a whole like
Sick.
yeah. But they would have never talked about that 3 years ago. It's like, oh my god, we're getting healthy, get the fuck out of here,
sick.
you know.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for the next 4 years,
Yeah,
dude.
hell
Even
yeah.
like financially, like with self-employment and people that are self-employed, like the way that the government treats you at the end when you're doing your taxes and working it
Yep.
is different.
Well, they're going to get rid of those 87,000 IRS
Yeah.
agents also. Like,
Yeah.
there's a whole lot coming, which
Yeah.
I am so
excited.
excited
They were
for.
entering a
dude.
new
yeah,
age.
and a lot of peace.
So much peace.
No school shootings.
That's what I want. I
When
just want
Republicans
peace,
in office,
bro.
there's no school shootings.
I just
There's
want
none of that
peace.
bullshit.
What a good
It
episode.
really was.
What a turn at the end
Yeah.
for a different type of conversation I was
Yeah.
not prepared for. All right, so we got some guests coming on, coming up, and we appreciate everybody tuning in.
Yep.
Look,
See
will
you
you
guys
be
later.
absolutely genuine with me? No deception, please. I want you to do something that expresses you without the slightest deception.